What's up guys, John here with Keto Dudes, and today I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know to get started intermittent fasting. Okay, so you're here to learn a bit more about intermittent fasting, which is a big buzzword right now. It's all over the internet and for good reason. So let's take a step back and talk about what fasting is in general. So fasting is the voluntary abstinence of eating food. Now, this is of course where you have a choice to do it. Now, if you don't have a choice, that's obviously not a joking matter and a completely different topic. But here in America and in first world countries, it's typically not a problem to have constant access to food. So it's up to the individual to make the choice to not eat for a certain period of time. So you ask, well, isn't that starvation? Well, in a sense, it is, but only if you look at it that way. That's really a negative way to look at it, where you think, oh, I'm actually starving, I'm hurting myself. But if you think about it, you're not starving when you're sleeping, are you? And that's typically at least 8 hours. So we're talking 8 hours of time that you don't eat and you don't wake up and go, oh my gosh, I was starving for 8 hours. I'm killing myself. So in essence, a voluntary fast isn't really starving. So with fasting, since it's a choice, you can choose how you would like to do it. You can choose how many hours you'd like to do it. You can choose when to start, when to stop. You can also choose how often do you want to do it. Do you want to do it every day? Do you want to do it once a week, once a month? It's completely up to you. For instance, on the holidays, maybe you don't want to fast at all. Maybe you want to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner and have snacks in between. You want to enjoy some of the great desserts that you get around the holidays, and that's fine. But just as long as you make a clear choice and plan, then there's really nothing wrong with that. Now, in terms of length of fasting, I'm going to talk about that a little later in the video, so stick around. But the next question you might have is, why should I actually fast? What's the benefit of fasting? I would say the number one reason that people decide to try and fast is to lose weight. Because if you're not eating as much, you're going to get fewer calories and you're very likely going to lose weight, and it will actually become very easy for your body to shed pounds. Secondly, you might want to do something like reverse type 2 diabetes, which is a huge problem in America and now around the world. Because when you're fasting, your blood sugar is going to fall. That is guaranteed. And you can potentially completely get off insulin if you take fasting seriously, and also consider combining that with a lower carb diet. Now, in addition to potentially reversing type 2 diabetes, you can also potentially reduce and prevent the risk of cancers and other diseases, which of course nobody wants. And lastly, one of my favorite benefits of fasting is that I just feel better. I sleep better. I have more energy. I can think more clearly. I don't crash and have all these ups and downs. I stay nice and steady. And another thing that you may not have realized is that religions have incorporated fasting for centuries. So it's something that's not at all new to humans. Also, don't forget that for many thousands of years, humans had to have fasted for varying periods of time, especially as the fruiting seasons ended and we go into winter, and there was very likely only animals available. And I don't know if you're aware, but animals are not so easy to hunt. Thus, humans were definitely forced to fast many, many times throughout history. So our bodies are genetically primed to fast. Okay, now let's talk about how to fast and go about doing that. So if you wanted to go the classical purist way, then you would do a water-only fast. So you pick a certain amount of time that you want to fast that day, and you only consume water and maybe some electrolyte drops or some salt. Now, if you don't want to be so strict and you want to do some alterations, well, then you can definitely drink something like coffee, tea, maybe some bone broth. And that's totally fine. It just depends what type of fast you're looking to do. Now, in terms of how long to do the fast, that's completely up to you. What's very common is to do a 16-hour fast and then an 8-hour window to eat. And that would look like this. So you can see that there's 16 hours that you do not eat. And then the rest of the time, the 8 hours, that is when you have your meals. Now, for those who really get into intermittent fasting, then you can extend that if you'd like to something they call OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. And that would be basically a 24, 23 hour fast. And that would go something like you eat dinner, say at 6 o'clock, then you do not eat anymore, and then you go to bed, you wake up, and the next day you don't eat until the next dinner time. And in effect, that's about a 24-hour fast. All right, now if you're new to fasting and you want a good game plan, what I would recommend is first, cutting out snacks during the day. So that means you have your breakfast, then your lunch, and your dinner. No snacking in between, no snacking after dinner. Then, if you want to step it up a bit, what you can do is start extending your breakfast time to a later time. So if you typically eat breakfast at 8 o'clock, try extending it to 9 o'clock. And then maybe after a day or two, if you feel okay, extend it to 10 o'clock, then 11, then 12. And what the heck, at 12, all of a sudden that's lunchtime. So what you can do is get to a point where you're actually skipping breakfast. And I do that every day. I typically will wait until lunch, so 12 or 1, and I will have a meal then. And then later around 5 or 6, I'll have another meal. Now I do that sometimes, and then I go back and forth between that and then doing the 1 meal a day where I just wait till dinner. And the thing you need to keep in mind here is this sounds daunting. You go, oh my gosh, I could never skip breakfast. I've always eaten breakfast. It's the healthiest meal of the day, all that stuff. That is complete nonsense to think that you have to eat breakfast to be healthy. It's just completely false. But if it's overwhelming to you at all, just take slow steps and slowly develop a habit. You don't need to flip a switch right away. You can do this incrementally and see how you feel. If you really feel like crap and you want a meal, go have a meal. You don't have to make yourself suffer. And then before you know it, you'll notice that you start adjusting. And you'll notice you skipping breakfast really is just not a big deal anymore. All right, folks, if you made it to the end of this video, I really appreciate you sticking around. If you want to give me any feedback, leave me a comment below. I promise I'll get back to you. And folks, I'll talk to you soon.